In 2013, I left England to go and live in Japan for what I thought was just going to be a 1 year experience. And then I would come back to England, get a job, make a career, and all of that wonderful stuff. However, not long after moving to Japan, I decided that I am never going back to England. And the further away from 2013 I get, and the news that I keep seeing coming from England, I really feel that that is definitely the correct choice to make. Now, today's video is going to be just quite brief and quite basic because I feel like this topic is so heavy that I need to go into like each individual point like in good detail. I can't really just do everything in one video because it'll be like 3 hours long. But I just want to touch on some things for now on a base level to try and give a few ideas of why I've decided to move permanently away from the UK. Now, the first reason, and this is probably the biggest reason, is peace and quiet. Now, living in the UK, from what I can see on the news and obviously from my experience living there, it feels like there's always something bubbling and something that's just ready to explode. Somebody striking, somebody rioting, people fighting. There's always conflict. Political views aren't just views anymore. They're ways of life and weapons to use against each other. It feels like people are just ready to attack each other at any time. There are instances, of course, where people go to great lengths to really help each other. But what I really feel from the outside is that nobody has the patience to just talk to each other and discuss things anymore. Whether it's about politics, Labour versus Conservatives, Labour versus Reform, any Labour versus Labour, just anything at all. It just feels like everything is just at a loggerheads. Obviously, with the Israel and Palestine thing, there's obviously a lot of emotion involved there. But it just feels like, why are people within England fighting each other about that when there's other ways that we can try and resolve conflict? Living in Japan, obviously things are much more peaceful. The political situation isn't wonderful, but I feel like people are more willing to ignore it and accept the reality of what we're given rather than always trying to fight things. Now, is that the best way to resolve any issues you might have? Maybe not, but would I rather just try and manage with what I have? Or would I rather be constantly shouting and screaming and fighting against something that ultimately will never actually change? The next point, of course, is the way of life, the lifestyle, the quality of life you can have. Now, it's quite famous that the salaries in Japan have been stagnant for decades now. The average salary or the base salary hasn't really changed at all over the past 20, 30 years. However, the prices of things also haven't really increased that much. Of course, things have got more expensive as naturally they have all over the world, but it's not to a crazy degree that I see in the UK. Now, salaries in the UK have gone up and up and up. However, prices have also blown up as well. For example, I bought this house. Not only did we buy this house, we built this house. This house was designed by us. The size of all the rooms, where the bath is, where all the plug sockets are, was all designed by us. And the whole house, plus we own the land that it's on, cost around... It works out to about £220,000 in today's money. Now, for a 4-bedroomed house within 45 minutes drive of the dead center of Tokyo, not just the Tokyo prefecture, we're talking like the middle of Tokyo. We can get into Tokyo very quickly. To be so close to Tokyo in a 4-bedroomed house, 2 toilets, a separate bath, a kitchen, living room, a garden, our own parking space, we pay in terms of our mortgage £450 a month. Now, I cannot imagine ever, from what I've seen, getting a home for £450 a month in the UK. Our interest rate for our house loan, our mortgage, is 0.6%. And that's after COVID, not even before COVID. That was after COVID. Eating out is much cheaper too. We can go to our local restaurant, get a bowl of ramen, get some sushi, get all different kinds of foods, and the maximum we'll probably pay per person is about £8, and that's getting a good meal with a drink. Could you get a full meal in the UK for £8 nowadays? Now, of course, you have to think relative to the salary and the income, but if things are cheaper, it doesn't matter if your salary is super high or super low. If you get £50,000 in the UK, but everything is mega expensive, you're gonna end up with the same amount at the end if you make £30,000 in Japan, but everything is very affordable. Now, I am in a very lucky situation that I do have like a second job, a side hustle, if you want to use that term, which pays in American dollars. Now, with the weak Japanese yen, I am at a big advantage, but that doesn't necessarily change the fact that Japan is more affordable, even for people on lower incomes. Of course, I am talking about why I've left the UK in this video, so the points I'm going to make about Japan are going to be the more positive ones. Of course, I will make more videos in the future, a bit more balanced. Childcare is another thing that's very, very different in terms of pricing. My brother has his daughter is maybe 10, 11 months now. And before, they were paying over £1,000 a month in childcare. And in fact, there's a famous YouTuber, a Japanese YouTuber who moved to the UK, who just had twins, and she's looking at over £100 a day for her daycare, which basically means, what's the point in even working at all? In Japan, when my daughter was in daycare, the maximum we ever paid was about £350 a month. And that was including 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. at night, 6 days a week if we needed it, plus lunches and extracurricular like English lessons, singing lessons, gymnastics, swimming, all those kind of things, all included in the £350 a month. But then when children turn 3 years old in Japan, their daycare is free. But the big difference here, I guess, is that in England, children go to primary school at a much younger age, because children typically go to primary school at 6 years old in Japan. There are cities nowadays that are making it so the second child starts daycare for free, no matter what age they are. The city that I work, Ichikawa City, even if your child is 3 months old, as long as they're the second, third child, completely free, which is mental if you think about it, because that means the government is paying for all the daycare services. I'm going to touch on 2 more points here. So the last one is going to be the most controversial, and I don't want to go into it too much because I don't want to say something that's not massively sensitive, mainly because I don't live in the UK and I cannot experience it 100% myself, but I'll get into that at the end. The third point I want to talk about is healthcare. Now, the UK used to be world renowned for its NHS healthcare service, where you could get treatment for free. Now, I've always been a bit skeptical about this love for the NHS, because even when I was a kid, I only ever heard people complain about it. Now, it's kind of biting the hand that feeds you, right? You get something for free, but they don't care that it's free. They just want it to be perfect for them. And what I noticed, I grew up on a council estate, and all the other people around me used to always just go to the hospital for everything and then complain that it's slow and it's crap service and the nurses are terrible. But then at the end of the day, they shouldn't be going so much when they don't need to go, because they are in turn slowing it down. Now, it's always interesting when I hear that the NHS is free, because it's not. You're paying your national insurance, you're paying taxes, which goes to pay for the NHS. And when you do go there, from my experience also, it was always very slow. And I only ever had negative experiences with the dentist. Whereas here in Japan, you do pay quite a lot of money in health insurance, and you are legally required to pay health insurance. It works out to about 10% of your paycheck. So I pay about £200 a month in health insurance now. But what it does mean is that I can go to any clinic in the country, not just my local GP. I could just take the train for a town, 3 towns over, and just walk into any clinic that I want. I can walk into any dentist that I want. And I am very likely to be seen relatively quick. For children as well, they only pay £1.50 for a checkup. Prescriptions are free. It's very, very smooth, and the quality of the service is not always great. For example, if you get a cold, they'll just shove you like 5 different medications, which is a bit weird. But the dentists are also very, not slow, but they do little by little. For example, if you have like 3 different cavities that need filling, they might only do 1 at a time, unless it's absolutely necessary to get them all done at once. So do I mind paying a little bit more, but then getting quicker service and more reliable service? Or do I rather it be free, but my experience is that it's always been slow and never that attentive? Though I do have to say that I've never had a big medical problem in the UK that needed dealing with. So therefore I'm also biased because my mum did also have surgery once and they messed it up, and then she needed a stoma for a few months, and of course there's no compensation for that. So I am a little bit biased as well, just from personal experience, but that is something to think about as well. And the last thing that I do want to talk about is immigration a little bit. Now, I am an immigrant myself. I moved from the UK to Japan. It is very interesting because when I was in school, about 70% of my secondary school was non-white, and it was no problem at all. Not everyone got on all of the time, but it felt like everything was, everything was fine, everything was working. But nowadays, when I see the news on immigration of people coming in small boats and net immigration being really, really high, but the services are not improving to go along with it, I do question, what is the point of accommodating it all? Now, I do completely understand people from countries that are going through conflicts themselves don't provide a safe environment for people to live in. I can completely understand that those people want to live somewhere else that's safe, because we didn't choose where we were born and we don't have control of the country that we grew up in. But I do also have to question, okay, if you're going to accept so many asylum seekers or immigrants, why is there not more effort into boosting the economy to create the services to accommodate not only the asylum seekers and the immigrants, but then also to make sure that the people who already live there continue a great way of life? Why does it feel like it has to be one against the other? Why does it have to force them to clash and battle each other? Why aren't there better systems in place to make sure that everyone can get along, everyone can integrate, and everyone can enjoy the fruits of everyone's labor, rather than some people being able to cheat the system, getting away with it? I personally am not on the child caps being lifted for parents having 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids. And the only reason why I'm not 100% on board with that is because I grew up on a council estate where a lot of people didn't work on purpose because they did get benefits. My secondary school, if you were a white girl in my secondary school, you basically had 3 kids by the time you were 18. So I understand that there are families that go through hard times. But I also have experience with a lot of families who purposely don't do the hard work that everybody else does. So I wish there was better means testing, or it's always unfortunate because it does affect the kids more than the parents. But where is the line? So immigration is becoming a bigger topic in Japan too, because a lot of people from maybe Southeast Asian countries are maybe cheating systems to get into the country and then using welfare, not necessarily being productive, Whereas there are a lot of immigrants as well who are trying to make businesses, teachers, people working as engineers. There are a lot of people trying to work, but then but we all get lumped into one group. And I think that's the challenge Japan is going through nowadays. I guess the advantage for Japan rather than the UK is that, of course, Japan is a very isolated island far away from anywhere else. So no boat is going to reach here. So they have a much better, system of making sure people are checked on their way in. You can't just swim to Japan or take a boat to Japan. You have to come in an aeroplane or a proper ship and go through customs. So that one is a bit of a difficult topic because I don't think there's a good solution for any country yet. So those are just a few of the reasons why I've left the UK for now. If you've got any opinions, if you've left the UK or are planning to leave the UK, please let me know what you think. I plan to break down more in each video. I'm still learning how to make videos, but thanks all for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time.